A few of you may have noticed that our Mike Tyson Punch-Out video didn't air on Wednesday, as it normally does at the beginning of the month. Unfortunately, we ran into some technical difficulties. Without going into too much detail, never trust a 2 gigabyte flash drive that you order from the internet that gets shipped to you from far, far away. But regardless, we do have plans to go ahead and post that video sometime this week. To kind of get us back on track, so to speak, since that video does come bookend in between 2 videos that we've already aired, we're going to be posting some casual conversations that Brenton and I have had with one another. Just, us talking about gaming, our history, experience with it. Nothing all too formal, nothing all too serious. Just pretty much us just reminiscing, possibly arguing. We'll start off this week with a conversation primarily about the PlayStation 1, and then go on to some other topics that, kind of interest us and hopefully interest you as well. We'll air that first one today, on Monday, and then tomorrow we'll go ahead and post that Mike Tyson video that we missed out on last week. And then the rest of the week we'll post some other conversations that we've had as well. The majority of them sober. So I hope you enjoy, and without further ado, take it away, Brian and Brent.
Anyways, Xbox X. That's the point I was trying to make. I don't know what point you were trying to make.
That high definition isn't necessary in order to enjoy games.
Of course. Yes.
That's it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. You want to go ahead and expand the graphical capabilities of a system. I think people get too wrapped up in what the game looks like, what the presentation is, and they take away the gameplay and the replayability and just the sheer fun factor. If a game is not fun to play, it doesn't matter how gorgeous it is.
If a game is not fun, it doesn't matter how gorgeous it is. I will agree with that.
Okay.
However, I will always remember the first time that I turned on The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Before I played the game, before I realized how good the
just
game was.
Just looking at the screen.
Was
it him on Epona?
Just looking at Link's face and saying he has a nose and eyes and hair and ears and mouth and a chin.
My brother and I sitting down on my bedroom floor as my father hooked up our Super Nintendo and we first booted up Super Mario World. The first expression from our lips was, oh, the graphics. So yes, it has an impact and it does make a difference.
The first thing that I said, looking at Zelda with a nose, with a defined nose, was...
Zelda with a nose or Link with a nose?
Link with a nose. I meant the game Zelda.
I'm going to let that one slide, but aside from that, you do know that little thing is going to pop up on the screen where he says, I am not Zelda.
Yeah. And that's fair. But anyways...
If I keep any of this in the video.
The first thing that I thought was, it will never get better than this.
Now see, I've never been that person until this current generation of consoles has come out. It's not going to keep improving. It's why the game market is stagnated the way it has. Is because you can't make them better. And they're so focused on the power of their consoles, they don't realize that's not going to make a difference anymore. You have to stop worrying about what your games are capable of doing and start making your games worth playing. That's the issue. The game market's being killed by things like Candy Crush.
Yes.
And that sucks. Because gaming is awesome and it should continue for generations and generations. And we're going to lose it to mobile gaming and all of this freeware shit. People need to realize that they need to play games for their content and not just for their visual.
I think that the market is changing. I think you see a lot of games that have been about Spider-Man 4, God of War. A lot of these games have been super successful in the past year that are about story and about characters and about development and those things. And
so why are they still worried about beefing up their consoles?
Well, first off, we have not heard, at least as of filming, of
what are you talking about? The PlayStation 5,
PlayStation
the
5,
Xbox, Cuisinart,
Xbox 2, or whatever the fuck.
I like Cuisinart better.
Xbox One is the dumbest name of any console ever.
You mock me for being a Nintendo fanboy. You can't spend the rest of the episode being a Microsoft hater. You already established they suck.
I am a Microsoft hater.
Let's move on. Well, you notice I'm not going to Nintendo fanboy, because obviously everything I'm talking about has to do with the fact that Nintendo's never going to make a console that's as strong from a power perspective as a Microsoft console, as a Sony console.
Ooh, we went full circle. I started this whole night talking about how Switch was that in the
Not on the video, though. I said the audience doesn't know that.
So, well.
We were talking about this earlier. But it doesn't change the fact that I still think that they bring merit to the gaming community.
Absolutely.
Because of the content that they bring to the table. Not all of it. Obviously, every company has their hits or misses.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't change the fact that their games are worth playing because of what they contain, not how powerful their console is.
I am more of an Xbox hater than I am a Sony fanboy. I am willing to admit my favorite console is Sony.
Wait, console? Your favorite gaming company?
Gaming company. Well, my favorite console is probably the PS1.
Really?
It has. 7, 8, and 9. All fantastic games. The Spyro Trilogy, Crash Bandicoot.
Okay, that takes us to the YouTube channel thing that you were discussing earlier with the whole backwards compatibility. Because if that's part of the equation, then the PlayStation 2 should be your favorite, shouldn't it? Or the 3. The 3 was 100% backwards compatible.
Originally it was.
Right. Well, that's what I mean.
That pretty quickly.
Yeah, they did. Well, that's because that damn thing costs too much money.
$600 is too much for a console.
I apologize.
Can we both agree that $600 is too much for a console?
We have to shake on it. Yes, $600.
No, I was gesturing.
Oh,
it was a point.
Well, you're a lefty, so I thought that was a handshake. But anyway, the point being is that I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that the PlayStation is your favorite. And again, being the Nintendo fanboy I am, I was a big fan of the PlayStation 1. I didn't own a Nintendo 64 when it came out. Take another shot, sir. That's where my mind was always at. I love the PlayStation, but I feel that games from that era are incredibly dated.
Yes.
And they just don't age well.
And I can agree with that.
Very few, like, I'll give you Ocarina of Time, I'll give you Donkey Kong 64, Super Mario 64, help me with some PlayStation stuff, like you mentioned, 7.
Crash Bandicoot, Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy 7, Spyro, Medieval.
That's plenty. But no, the point being is that there are games that have aged well enough that they're still worth playing. I'll even go as far as to say the original Resident Evil. For the pre-rendered background graphics, for the full motion video, no matter how hackneyed the voice acting was, to PlayStation.
To PlayStation.
But on a whole, it didn't age well. So that's why I was surprised to hear you say the PlayStation is your favorite console. I would have expected 2 or 3 to be the one that you came up with.
I completely understand where you're coming from. And Medieval is currently remastering their games. I think it's just the first one. Maybe it's a series. I don't know.
I fully support, while I'm not a big fan of the re-releasing for quote-unquote better graphics, anything that came out in the Polygon era, because everyone should know at this point my distaste for polygons, please remaster it. I bought the Crash Bandicoot trilogy recently just because I love those games, but there's no way in the world I'm going to play on the PS1.
But in one of the advertisements for that game, I saw it said, built from the ground up to make the game look as good as you remember it. And I fucking cackled when it said
That's good. That's real good.
Yeah. Because, when the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, we just talked about that, came out, the first thing I did is I went back and played the originals. And when I first turned them on, I was like,
God damn, it looked that bad.
Oh my god. This does not look like I remember it in my brain. And some games do. Final Fantasy 7, Metal Gear Solid.
We just stated there's some that aged. Some that didn't. Or aged better than others, I should say.
Aged better than others. But yeah.
My issue with that generation is if I pop in any Super Nintendo game, it looks as good as I remember it.
Correct.
Even something like Donkey Kong Country, which was revolutionary for the time, but obviously there's been games that have been well better rendered since then. It still looks like a beautiful game. Not as well on a flat screen TV, but if you were to play it on a CRTV, game is just as gorgeous as it always has been. Anything from the Polygon era, like I mentioned to you the other day, again, sorry we're saying so many things that we haven't expressed to the audience before, we've just shared with each other, that when you make your PlayStation 2 that has all your PlayStation 1 games on it, one of the games I'm dying to play for the channel or just for the fuck of it is ESPN Extreme Games.
Yes.
Yeah, so much fun. That game is so much fun. It looks like shit. It looks absolutely horrible. Even the pre-rendered graphics in the game, they just don't hold up. And the first time that I played it, I think I downloaded it on the PlayStation Network when I owned a PS3, I was so disappointed just with the graphics. The game is still just as good as I remember, but the visuals are just so poor.
And I can't deny that some of the visuals of the PlayStation can't hold up. I'm not gonna. You look at the selection of the PS1 Classic, and I think that statement stands true. However, I love.
I think that the selection for the PS1 Classic is a conversation in and of itself. Because I definitely take issue with some of those games they announced.
I do too, for more than one reason.
Different conversation though.
However, the original PlayStation, in my opinion, took the leap from good storytelling to great storytelling. Metal Gear Solid is a great story.
Yes.
It has great characters, great twists, great intrigue, etc., etc., etc. You could take it. You could make it a book. You could make it a movie. You could make it a TV show. And as long as it's done well, you could take it and do that with it. Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9.
Love that you skipped 8, I guess.
Final Fantasy 8 is a great video game. I will defend it as a video game.
I know, but you don't have to justify the story. You're fine.
I don't think it would make a good TV show. I'm sorry for all of the 8 fans. I defend you normally, but in this particular sense.
The handle of the sword is a gun. Hang on, go ahead.
I was about to defend it. We don't have time for that.
We don't have time for any of this shit.
No.
We gotta wrap things up.
Oh.
Make your point. Because keep in mind, I'm not knocking your decision. Whatever your favorite console is your favorite console.
Right.
I was just surprised to hear it. So, finish your point, please.
It would either be the PS1 or PS2, but it would be the PS1. I think that would be the end decision.
Because?
Well, first off, Final Fantasy 7 is my favorite game.
Yes, it is.
All time.
And even though it only ranks 52nd on the top 100 RPGs of all time. It's a game spotless. Look it up.
Fuck you in so many different ways.
I
all
emailed
of
him at the
holes,
moment that I found
your
out.
ears, your eyes, your nose, I don't care.
Continue. So Final Fantasy 7's on it.
Final Fantasy 7
which is a great game.
My favorite game of all time.
I'm not arguing. Great game.
And I realized that that's become a bad thing, but like...
Continue.
I don't care.
Final Fantasy 7, that's one of them.
Metal Gear Solid.
Is it game selection? Is that...
I think it just comes down to the quality of gameplay versus storytelling. I feel like once you get into the PS3 era, storytelling really starts to drop. People get into the open world, the Grand Theft Auto thing starts to really catch on. And not to bash, there are great Grand Theft Auto games, but an open world does not make a great game, in my opinion. Any great characters, any great storytelling, any great other things. And I love PS2. There's a lot of great PS2 games. I feel like PS3, and we're starting to course correct at the end of the PS4 era of PS3 and PS4 got to how big is the world? How much can you do?
Are you not sort of making my point for me that we started this whole conversation with, though? Because I said that they keep focusing, when I say they, meaning the companies, Sony and Microsoft keep focusing on, we got to beef up our systems, they got to be capable of more, there's got to be better graphics, and we have to be able to include more content, and that they've drifted away from that whole storytelling, gameplay, replayability concept. And by telling us your favorite console was the PlayStation, isn't that kind of just solidifying my point? Because the PlayStation does not have the best graphics, the best capabilities, it's not the most powerful console. But it was still a very impressive console for what it was able to deliver and the experience that it gave you.
Yes.
Awesome.
I agree. Final Fantasy VII is not a game that has aged well graphically.
Oh, gosh, no.
If
I have the hardest time playing it.
I have a hard time when I had someone message me. This is about a year and a half ago, actually, and they said, "I want to get into Final Fantasy. Like, I play Final Fantasy 15. I've loved it. I want to get into the older Final Fantasies. Like, how do I get into them?" Everyone said Final Fantasy 7. And I said, actually, play Final Fantasy 9. That's the sweet spot. Because, and then you can go back and play 7 and 6 and some of the other fantastic Final Fantasies. But start with 9. It is a better story than 10. I'm so sorry for 10/10s. It's a better story than 10. It's better characters than 10. It's a better world. Final Fantasy 9 is the most underrated Final Fantasy, maybe video game.
It's my brother's favorite.
It's so good. I mean, it is so good. And so I said, play 9. And then, if you like 9, and you understand how much you love these characters, you love this world, then you can go back and play something like 7 or 6. That,
if it wasn't for my love of 6, I don't think I would have enjoyed 7 as much as I did.
I feel the exact reverse.
Well, because you played them that way. Didn't you?
I did.
Oh.
Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 7 was the first Final Fantasy I ever played. My parents were out of town. My grandparents were babysitting us, and they took us to Blockbuster. They said, "Rent whatever you want." We rented like 6, 7 games, and over the course of the week or how long we were there, we played. I started with Final Fantasy 7, played for like an hour. I was like, well, this is the most boring bullshit game I've ever played in my entire life.
That sounds like pretty much anybody's response to an RPG.
It's
their first experience.
And then we played all the other games we had. I don't remember what they were because they didn't leave an impression on me. After I finished all these other games, I was like, okay. And I asked my grandpa to take me back to the video game store to rent other video games. He was like, no.
We let you rent 7 or 8 games,
you
asshole.
have like so many. And I was like, oh, fine. And so I sat down and I was like, I guess I'll play this boring ass Final Fantasy 7 again. And I played it. And I fell madly in love with the game. I played the whole thing over the course of like 2 weeks. Like, you know, it became my favorite video game ever. Blew my mind. But originally, my initial reaction was, this game is boring. I do not like this. I want to do other things with my life.
I think a lot of people respond that way to an RPG. But the point that you were making, at least initially, was it took you diving into that game for you to be able to appreciate something like 6.
Correct.
But again, both of those games, on different levels, of course, one being from 6-bit generation to 32,
well,
they're not the most powerful games in terms of the graphics. With 6, I'll be the first person to admit the story isn't as deep as you'd get in something like 7. 7's a lot more expansive, although I love the story in 6. I did fall in love with those characters and their dilemmas.
Right.
But the Super Nintendo and the original PlayStation weren't incredibly powerful consoles, and yet they turned out amazing games. And people get too hung up now on what the game's able to show you, as opposed to what the game's capable of making you feel, what the game's capable of making you experience.
Right.
I just think it's a shame.
It's like the puddles in Spider-Man PS4. People had an outrage that there were just less puddles in Spider-Man PS4. The
What?
Did you not know about this?
I don't follow current gaming.
You don't know about Puddlegate? So okay, so
what's Puddlegate, Brent?
very briefly.
Why do I not feel like this is going to be brief?
Because it's not. Insomniac released a trailer of Spider-Man PS4. And it has Spider-Man, he was perched on this, I think it was a lamppost, maybe it was a building, maybe it was something. He's perched on it. And you have these bad guys and stuff all around. And you have these puddles. And they look great. Well, in the actual game, if you go to that same spot, there's less puddles. And people pitched like a fit. Like, people were outraged on the internet about the puddles.
I know our audience,
And-
just by the nature of our channel being on YouTube, is on the internet. But internet, find more important things to care about.
And they were so upset about it because they're like, you downgraded your game's quality for release date. It could have had X, Y, Z puddles, and you only put so many puddles. Anyway. And Insomniac basically came back and said,
Tell me that this isn't people missing the point.
no, I mean, this is a real thing.
But this is people
happened.
missing the point, right?
Yes.
They're so fixated on what can be visually demonstrated to them that the actual content is being almost lost.
Correct. Insomniac came out and said, we didn't move the puddles because of any graphical capability. We just thought there were too many puddles, so we made less puddles.
But even if they did, let's say the PS4 couldn't handle that many puddles. Sony, I'm not knocking your console. I'm sure it could handle as many fucking puddles as you want to throw at it. But if it could, who cares? What is that? Yes, there are graphical moments. We did an episode on Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance.
Right.
And in that game, there are several times where you walk through water. Water that's about, calf high.
Which
whatever.
looks
The
great
ripples
at
in
the
the
time.
water.
Yeah.
Even in the GameCube version, which is just a port of the PS2 version, they didn't make that exclusively for the GameCube. They ported it over. So it's the graphically inferior version of all three versions of that game that were released. It still looks beautiful. And yes, it's nice when you walk through it. It's visually stunning. I remember when I first saw it, I ran around to the fountain that was out in the city.
Right.
Just because I thought it looked so beautiful. Yes, graphics can be an element that helps absorb you into the game and the experience and all that good stuff. But it's not the only one. And I think people just get too hung up on it.
Can you use a movie reference?
I guess, sure.
Triple X with Vin Diesel.
Yes.
That movie was insanely successful upon release. Because of visual effects. Because it blew people's minds. Because of the things that they were doing and the practical effects and everything they did in that movie. However, when was the last time? It's still in I want to say it's in the top 50 grossing movies of all time.
Really?
Yes.
I've never even seen it.
And if you, I don't know when the last time, other than myself, that Triple X has come up in conversation. And
It's not frequent.
And it's for that.
And there's a sequel that came out recently too.
Yeah, and it's for that very reason. That movie did not leave impact. It blew people's minds in the moment, but it did not leave impact. And occasionally, you can have something that leaves that type of graphical, impact, and has the long-standing quality and storytelling and characters or whatever gameplay. You have those two things combined. That is a very rare occasion. But you have it. A Lord of the Rings, a Super Metroid, a Final Fantasy VI,
You're receiving a phone call, sir.
Farewell.
We will call it quits. Thank you.